Hello and welcome back to the Atmosphere is Electric. There's Fran, I'm Rich. Fran, you've not been yourself this week, mate. You've not been feeling very well, so hopefully you're well enough to get through the next hour of talking about football. How are you feeling? You okay?
Have felt better. As you can tell, I'm probably a bit more sexy in the voice, but yeah, I felt a bit better.
Only fans incoming. Uh, yeah, you've been pretty rough this week, so I hope you're at least feeling a little bit better within yourself, bud. And of course, not only has things not been going well for you in terms of your wellness, but obviously in terms of our predictions as well. I mean, another tough week, although apparently my banker came in again, so looking all right there.
Your bankers are flying, mate. So Chelsea, I'm going to phone Maresca and tell him he owes me a bit of money because they can't defend long throws.
How did we get on last week in terms of what did you get? Was it 5 out of 10? Did you get right? I can't remember now. 4, 5, 6, I think, Phil.
So I got 4 and you got 6. So
That
yeah,
quite.
not too bad. And so we were both very close to our £5 challenges. Both Chelsea let us down and Everton for you. But your banker Newcastle landed and Chelsea failed for me.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult season so far, hasn't it, to sort of predict. In fact, I was talking to somebody during the week who, those last man standing sort of games that you get where you kind of have to pick a team each week, and if they draw or lose, you're out. He said he's in an 80-person game, and they're down to their last 4 in game week 5.
Doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
It's nuts.
William Hill are running one where you can enter it, but you can re-enter it when you go out every week, so it starts the pot again. And I think I must have entered 5 competitions.
At you 50 quid later. Yeah, look, I'm a millionaire. One tweet, it's cost me 50 quid, but I won a tenner. So yeah, very difficult. And if I'm honest with you, I think this week feels, looking at now what we know because we're getting a larger data size, actually feels even harder than any of the other weeks that we've done. But obviously that's what we're here to do, so we will do that. But first of all, let's go back to last week. Was there a team or a performance that really impressed you? I mean, obviously, Liverpool got away with it again a little bit, last minute. If they haven't sort of set the world alight, but 100% record. Obviously, Man City drubbed Man United. Arsenal gave Nottingham Forest a good showing. Bournemouth with another good home win. But was anybody that sort of really impressed you last week from a team performance wise?
Do you know what? I'm going to go a little bit left field. Brentford impressed me. So I was watching the game, obviously, with my interest in the banker and my £5 challenge of Chelsea. And I actually thought throughout the game, I got the feeling that Chelsea were going to score and it was coming. But Brentford, I thought they've been a really, really poor team, and I do fear for them this year. However, on the weekend, I looked at that game and I thought they looked impressive. Like the fight in the team, they attacked at pace as well. And when you take out, Vissa and Buemo, and you look at it on paper, you think it's really weak. But I liked what they did there, and I thought, at home, they might have a chance. So I was really encouraged by that performance from them.
I think also you add that to the fact they've just knocked Aston Villa out on penalties as well in the Carabao Cup. It feels like there's a bit of a mentality shift there, doesn't it? They don't feel like they're kind of licking their wounds anymore, that they've kind of gone, right, let's heal and let's move forward. So I don't disagree with you, actually. I think Brentford have had a very, very good week. Obviously, on the other side of that coin, 2 teams for me still jump out, Aston Villa and Manchester United. Both of them feel to me like they've gone back. Obviously, Aston Villa massively, but everyone sort of thought Man United can't go backwards from last season, but arguably have. Aston Villa yet to score, bottom 2. Manchester United, I mean, it was men versus boys. However you cut it, it should have been a lot more than 3-0. Both of those teams really, really need to start pulling a string of results together, otherwise they're going to get cut away, aren't they?
They are. I mean, the only thing you can say about Villa is the manager is proven. So you would expect Villa to turn it around. They have got a good set of players there as well, regardless of some of the outs and some of the ins in Sancho, whether you rate him or not. They still have a relatively good squad there. Like, you wouldn't expect them to not score goals any longer. Man U, on the other hand, when you look at that squad, you just think, what are they doing? It's the same formation week in, week out, regardless of the players at his disposal. They don't look a threat. Sesko, who's come in, who everyone rated really highly, looks like Manchester United have just bought another dud. He's not a dud. He's just coming into a toxic environment. They just look awful. And honestly, I don't know where they go from here, because they're going to have to eventually, apparently he's got 3 games left until he gets sacked, hasn't he? To prove that he's still worthy of the job. If he does get sacked, where did they go from here? because that would have been another 2 or 3 transfer windows trying to buy players for Amorim style. Who are they going to go for?
Yeah, they'd have to go for somebody like an Oliver Glasner who plays that style, who has done it better, plays that shape, and I think would be the perfect off the shelf. You know, he doesn't seem to be particularly happy at Palace with some of the outs as well. For me, and again, I'm no expert, but for me, that's the absolute home run, no brainer of it all, because he's already playing that shape. And again, potentially when January comes around, when you talk about some of the players that would make Manchester United better, some of them sit within Crystal Palace, don't they? So actually, for me, that feels like the no-brainer. Wouldn't be cheap, and Crystal Palace fans won't like us for saying it, but for me, that's exactly where they will go. But the fact that that story has been linked, and you and I now know there's 3 games to save. Now, again, whether it's true, it can't be helping, can it? Like, you know, that Manchester United squad from top to bottom just doesn't look like it's set up properly. And you mentioned Sesko there. You know, I don't think that Sesko's done anything wrong. I think that the system's wrong. He's not getting, like, you know, if the ball's not coming to him in attacking positions, if they're not using his strengths, you might as well put you and me up front.
Well, that's what I mean by he's not a dud. He's just in a team that isn't performing, that's not set up to allow him to perform to his strengths. So therefore, like, you can't say he's a dud, but he's looking like a flop because he's not being allowed to perform. But like you mentioned Glasner, I mean, my query on that would be if Amorim doesn't have the squad to play that formation, to bring in a manager to suit the previous managers, to me, is a bit nonsensical because the squad isn't there to play that formation. I completely agree with you. If you're going to carry on with that formula, Glasner is the correct way to go. But that squad just isn't suited. Like, who has scouted Dorgu, by the way, and they thought he's a Manchester United player?
No, and you know, we can do that 100 times in terms of, you know, the Man United transfer. But I would say if I was looking at a paper kind of comparison between the two teams, and I didn't know what the formation was going to be, I'd say the Manchester United squad is far stronger than the Crystal Palace squad. For me, it's just, I mean, they've got plenty of centre backs. You know, wing back is an area of potential improvement for sure. But we all seem to agree that it's that kind of midfield two, the 2 6s, if you like, or the 2 holders, whatever you want, or the double pivot, that they're just getting wrong. He's actually putting square pegs in round holes. You've got Diallo playing as a right wing back. You've got Fernandes playing as a CDM. Like, actually, I think that if he just focused on getting at least even like the right options in the right places, there'd be a better option. And I think Glasner could do that. Like I said, whether 3-4-2-1 is the right way to play, you know, I'm open to that not being the system. But, you know, they've just spent 200 million quid on trying to make that system work.
Yeah, and you look on paper, some of the signings they've made. Mbeumo, I think, is a really good signing. Cunha is a really good signing. But when you've got the 2 lads running down the wing in Dallo and Dorgu as attacking options who haven't got an attacking bone in the body, they're out and out fullbacks, if we're being honest. You know, defensive wing backs. How are you still carrying on with that system? Like, you're better off sticking actual wingers on the wing and saying to them, off you go.
Again, I think the more I go through life, tactical flexibility is important. You know, I really believe that. I think that we've all got a little bit bogged down in having a style of play. You know, you even think about Manchester City have gone out and signed Donnarumma. That tells me that they're going defensively. We need to be tighter. You know, I don't need the goalkeeper to be able to ping the ball 80 yards onto someone's toe. And he made a great save, a couple of great saves. The one against Mbeumo, you know, from the volley was one that only he and maybe 2 other goalkeepers in the world could or would make. So there needs to be an evolution to this, and his marriage to that system that everybody's worked out is the downfall. And even after the Fulham game, they came out, didn't they, and said, we understand how to play against it, we know what to do. So to have no kind of plan B, and it takes me back to Gareth Southgate in the World Cup, when everyone knew in that semi-final against Croatia exactly how England were set up, exactly how they were going to play, and Croatia just eventually worked out how to beat that system. To have a 4-3-3 every now and again, or 4-2-3-1 every now and again, I think would do Manchester United no harm and actually increase their likelihood of winning games of football.
Yeah, and I think that Manchester United team, when you've not got the best players as well, you know, it's not like previous years. Pep has been wedded to a system and he's gone, this is the way we're playing, but you've got the best players in the world to be able to play that system. Amorim hasn't. And I think to be a good / elite manager, yes, you have to have an identity. And I agree you should stick to your principles with it, because I think it's the correct thing to do. But you've got to have some level of flexibility. So you can still play 3-4-3, but then you might have to tweak it here and there. You can't just have one 100% way of going. You might have to take 5% off here and there, but you can still play 3-4-3.
The right person in the right position. You might need to have a Casemiro next to an Ugarte. Not suggesting, by the way, you defend it. And Fernandes, I'm sorry, you've got to spend some time on the bench because we're going with Brown and Cunha in the forward. Or actually, maybe you need to. I think he's just trying to almost kind of go, this is our system, and we're going to bend the people into it rather than going, Bruno Fernandes has been a phenomenal signing for Manchester United, arguably their best in the last, pick a number, 10 years, maybe. I don't know. And someone will tell me it's not 10 years, but certainly the last 8 years. But he's not a CDM in anyone's money.
Nope. And I think you're right. You've got to, so you can still play the formation, but you've got to put the right people in the key positions. And you might then say to Fernandes, we're going to play you out wide on the left to be able to get him into the team, especially while Cunha's out. Makes complete sense to go on where he's almost out the way from a defensive structure, but when you give him the ball. But then you might go with your wing backs. You might put Diallo at left wing back and then have Dallo at right wing back and say to Dallo, you just stay in as a fullback essentially, and you just use the left-hand side as your attacking outlet. You've got to tweak it a fraction to be able to make that work. You can still play your formation with your philosophy, but tweak it. And he just looks like he's got no idea but to play one way. And as soon as teams have worked him out after, 2 or 3 games of his tenure, they look done.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And I think, bizarrely, that's why Aston Villa aren't getting the heat in the press and the public that they are, because we're focusing on Man United. We just spent 5 minutes about Man United when actually Aston Villa are beneath them, in all kinds of trouble, out of the Carabao Cup as well. So there's definitely some big clubs that need to get moving pretty quickly. Whether they've got the right players or the right manager is yet to be seen. But interestingly, we start the game week at Anfield. Obviously, last night, a very, very entertaining game. Arguably one of the more entertaining games of the Champions League kickoff. Liverpool host Everton, the early kickoff, 12:30. Liverpool, sorry. Because even last night, even yesterday, 2-0 up, comfortable, flying. Madrid bring it back to 2-2, and it needs a last-minute winner from Van Dijk. Are Liverpool getting away with it a little bit in terms of that they just seem to be doing enough, which everyone tells me is the sign of champions? So great, they're on 12 points, the only team in the Premier League that are still unbeaten. But they look get atable, don't they? And that surely at some point, that, I don't want to use the word luck or skill, needs to run out, and they're not going to get that last-minute winner.
For me, I have not been impressed. I've been impressed with them to an extent of, like you said, that they keep going. They are scoring the late goal, but eventually that's going to run out. They haven't looked creative for me. They've created a lot of chances, half chances, where the ball's gone wide. They're whipping lots of early balls in, but they've not cut teams open. They've not had that guile, which is normally come through the number 10. Florian Wirtz, for me, has had a stinker of a start to the season. He's looked neat and tidy on the ball, but he's not had anything about him to cut through defences for me. I don't think he's looked an amazing buy at the minute. It's almost like the past few years have not played with a 10. Liverpool don't realise how to utilise him yet. So I think it will get better as time goes on. I think the biggest standout for me is Mo Salah. I messaged you after a few of the games. He looks done to me. He scored a penalty. He scored a late equaliser or goal in the first game of the season. So if you look at his fantasy output and stuff like that, it looks like he's doing okay. But if you watch him with your eyes, he looks like Liverpool have been carrying him. To me, for me, he looks completely done. And it might be, a shout which people don't like, but for me, he looks like he's aged overnight. And was it 3-year contract they've given him? I'd be worried if I was Liverpool, the hierarchy, because he doesn't look the same Mo Salah from 6 months ago.
I would say that last night he looked, from what, again, I didn't catch the first 20 minutes because I was actually watching Bayern Chelsea. But I did kind of flick back after Bayern went 3-1 up. I did swing back because that game was getting a bit, and Salah did look. He had lots of space because Madrid were on the kind of all-out attack, essentially trying to get back into the game. So he did have a lot of space. but even then missed a golden chance to make it. I think it would have been 3-1 at the time, hit the post. He did look a bit more lively. And I think actually the thing for me is that Isak is a serious upgrade on Ekatike. And so I do think that Isak will be able to pull him into the game more, but also give him more space. I think Ekatike is a bit of a budget Isak, and I think actually you'll see quite quickly that he gets kind of moved to the side, and Isak very much is going to be their main man, and I think that might make Liverpool a bit more sort of threatening. But actually, if we now look back at that transfer window, and we were all getting excited about it at the time, Kerkez, Frimpong, Wirtz, Ekatike, all of a sudden, actually, it doesn't look as good as it did. And I asked the question, is the Liverpool 11 stronger this year than it was last year?
I think you mentioned all those players, the ins. I think the one thing to highlight here is, did Trent Alexander-Arnold enable Mo Salah to be the player that he was? Those through balls that he used to play, you now look at Mo Salah, teams have got a fullback and then the winger or the midfielder tucks inside and they double up every single time. They don't mind the ball going to Frimpong. He's a very different type of fullback. In Germany, he was allowed to bomb forwards. Against Burnley, I know he didn't start, but no one's going to allow. They're going to let you bomb forwards because they're sitting on the penalty spot. It's a completely different style of play. So for me, I think the loss of Trent Alexander-Arnold is having a huge impact on one, Mo Salah, but two, Liverpool. The amount of goals and chances he created from unusual positions hurt teams, and they're now having to do it more traditionally, which is far easier to sit on Florian Wirtz in a 10. You just put a defensive midfielder on his toes and go, try and break us down. Trent Alexander-Arnold from 20 yards outside the left-hand side of the penalty box, whipping balls in, nightmare to defend.
Isn't it funny how actually, and of course, defensively isn't just about one person. So, if you take one player out or put one player in, but because it's much bigger than that, as we've spoken about many times, but actually they look weaker defensively as well. Like, we was all kind of, and we talked about it on here many times, Trent's no good as a defender. He's a more a midfield wing, but actually they kept the ball longer. The quality of his balls, the fact that he could play a ball into the final third and it got there, kept them in that hot. You tend to not concede goals if you're in and around their penalty area. Actually, it feels to me like the game is being played a lot nearer Liverpool's box, and I hadn't really thought about it until now. But maybe that's because Trent's not there pulling the strings.
Yeah, and I think you've also got to look at the left back situation. For me, like I've heard lots of people talking about flops of the year and it's gone Wirtz or Gyökeres. For me, Kerkez is the biggest flop so far. He's looked dreadful. He's looked rash, late challenges. He's lucky to have been booked a couple of games. He could have been off in some of them. Teams have been attacking down that side and he's been getting torn to bits. So for me, Kerkez at the minute is flop of the season.
Yeah, it was quite a tough. I don't like it to say. I understand why Arne Slot did it, but it's always tough to kind of have the player taken off before half time. But I get it, and again, look, we've all fallen foul of this. The famous Luka Modric transfer to Real Madrid, where he got voted the worst signing of the season. He's gone on to be a Real Madrid legend. So, the jump from Bournemouth to Liverpool is huge. He's a young man.
He's young, isn't it? So it's not saying he's not going to be good, but so far from his performances, for me, he's been dreadful. So it wouldn't surprise me if he has a stint on the sidelines and Robertson comes back in. When he's actually been subbed on for Kerkez, they've looked far more adventurous going forward. They've looked better on the ball defensively. So for me, it would make sense just to go back to Robertson for 4 or 5 games, give the lad a break and let him settle in.
Yeah, I think that's what they did that last night. Robertson played, scored. I think, and then you bring Kerkez on later in the game. I think that's probably what they'll do to shield him and to marry him into the way Liverpool want to play moving forward. But on the other side of this, Everton are going about their business pretty smoothly, pretty quietly, as we expected David Moyes' team to do, not conceding that many goals, other than bizarrely Wolves away, where they conceded a couple. Other than that, Leeds scored a penalty, so they look tight at the back. They've got some attacking options now that they've not had before. This, for me, feels like the worst possible match Liverpool could have after a heavy Wednesday night Atletico Madrid clash that, felt like it was going on late into the night. And, of course, it's the early kickoff. So, for me, they say never bet on the early kickoff. And this for me, is a problem for Liverpool. I think Everton will be feeling more confident than they ever have going into, not ever, but certainly for a while, going into Anfield.
100%. And you say don't bet on the early kickoff. My advice would only be on this is if you're betting on Everton. So I think that's not a bad bet for an early kickoff. Wouldn't put them in any accumulators or anything like that. But I think Everton have value here, like you said, coming back from a Wednesday night game in the Champions League where it's been a hard-fought game. They've not looked good in the league. The star player has looked very ropey so far this season. New signings haven't bedded in. Everton will be coming into this with confidence. And I mean, 11-2 with Bet365. I think that's great odds for Everton. I wouldn't be putting anyone off a Sky Bet freeze if you're putting them in an accumulator.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what Liverpool do with Isak. Obviously, Everton are missing Branthwaite, but ultimately both teams are relatively. This feels to me like scanning Jack Grealish, for example, is going to absolutely kind of love that kind of atmosphere, and these are the sort of games why he wants to play week in week out and stake a claim for himself. And of course, if Liverpool are struggling in that full back area, you can see him picking at some pockets, can't you? They've got obviously.
Tactically there, it looks ideal for Jack Grealish, doesn't it? So whoever the fullback is, it's been Salah, who's not a fullback, could be Frimpong. Frimpong will have the license to bomb forward. Salah very rarely tracks back, not to the 18-yard box. Grealish is going to be one-on-one for the majority of the game. I can see him having a huge impact on this game.
Yeah, I think they'll go with Conor Bradley personally, but again,
I think that'd be a great choice for this game.
Yeah, again, that goes back to our point, right? Pick a team for who you're playing against, change your personnel, change your shape slightly, make a couple of tactical changes, and that can help you pick up points. But we can't underestimate or underplay the importance of Liverpool's ability to keep winning games, even when they don't look like they are. Even if the Burnley player makes the most stupid mistake you've ever come across to give you a last-minute penalty, all they can do is keep winning games of football. And at the moment, they're the best of the worst, right? The rest of the Premier League doesn't look particularly firing. So for Liverpool to be on 12 points already, that might be the difference at the end of the season if they can just keep picking up points as they go along. So early kickoff factored in. Liverpool's midweek game where Everton haven't had one. How do you see this one going?
I've gone 2-1 to Liverpool. I can see Everton taking the lead and then almost the subs come on and change the game because I think Everton will probably sit in. So I've gone 2-1 Liverpool, but that's with no confidence.
So again, I don't think I've got any confidence on hardly any of these this week. I think it's a very difficult week, but I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I think this is the game, and but I don't think that would actually be a disaster for Liverpool in this game, based on everything we just spoke about. I think, I think 1-1 might not be a bad result for both teams, and I can see Isak, making a name for himself and really coming to the fore in some way, shape, or form on Saturday morning.
I think 9-20 or 1-2 is a stinking price on Liverpool.
It's nuts.
Not going in my £5 challenge. Stay well away from them at that price.
Yeah, actually, if it was evens, you give it a go. But like you said, that number.
Yeah, if it was evens or an 8-11 sort of price, I'd be thinking about that, but not at that price. No chance.
No, completely agree, mate. Completely agree. We move to 3 o'clock, of which we've got 4 at 3 o'clock on Saturday this week. Brighton and Hove Albion, again, who have been up, down, round and round, host Tottenham Hotspur, who look a very, very, very different team to last season. I made the mistake of watching their Champions League comeback on Tuesday night. One of the worst Premier League performances I've ever seen in my life in Europe. It was horrific.
But they won.
Yeah, they did, and great place to be, right? But I tell you now, Tottenham have got defensively, they look 1,000 times better than they did last season. They've only conceded 1 goal all season, same as Arsenal, all that good stuff. But going forward, it's clunky, it's slow, missing key players. Down the left-hand side, Jed Spence linking up with Xavi Simons is not an answer to the attacking solution at all. I think the midfield 3 is wrong. They've got too much kind of running, not enough passing. Kudos has looked like. So for me, Tottenham have got some stuff to fix. I think they've got the players in the squad to jiggle it around. For me, I'll be bringing Xavi Simons into the middle to have that little bit more freedom where he can pull some strings and have 2 wingers out wide. But for me, this is a game that Tottenham don't historically do well in. And I actually make Brighton favourites for this game. I don't know how you see it, but for me, I know that Brighton are up and down, but for me, at home, with Tottenham with their struggles, I don't think this is going to be the free-flowing game it has been in the past. But for me, I see Brighton winning this one.
I think your last sentence there of I don't think this is going to be the free-flowing game that it has been in the past leads me to believe that 2-1 on Tottenham is a great price. I think, as you said, they're a very different animal to what they were last season. Defensively look rock solid, which I think against Brighton, who at times can be neat and tidy, have lots of possession on the ball, but don't particularly create a lot. I think he's going to play into Tottenham's hands where they can almost suck that pressure up and then just hit them on the break. They've still got pacey players in that Spurs squad. I think 2-1's a great price. I mean, I can see Spurs just edging it. So they'll be going in my £5 challenge for the price and for the start that they've had, just because I think they're a very different animal to what they were last season. And I think they're going to start eking out some results. You know, winning breeds confidence, and I can see them just beating Brighton.
Yeah, but by the way, I watched the Champions League build-up show on TNT, and I think it was Joe Cole who has done a bit of work with Thomas Frank. He's talking about actually over the summer of all of the movement, of all of the players, of all the managers, maybe Thomas Frank was the best signing across everybody and everything. And the key thing that I've really liked, that he brought all of his coaching staff with him, which tells you that kind of bond. And actually, I think Tottenham have also got their next manager in Justin Cochrane, who also works with England as his number 2, who was going to be the Brentford new manager. I think they've got their next manager in place as well already. But they're just not. Brighton are going to pass Tottenham off. You know, if Tottenham play the kind of slow, turgid football they played midweek, I can see Brighton picking them off. And yes, it's a great defensive start, but if they can't give the ball away or turn the ball over as much as they did against, let's be honest, they're quite average. I mean, if you look down at Villarreal team, most of them are ex-Premier League players that didn't do particularly well in the Premier League, and really Villarreal should not have lost that game at all. So I'm actually going the other way. But the great thing about this game is if you get it right, whichever way you go, the odds are good. So Brighton, I've got a 5-4. Like you quite rightly say, the draw is at 12-5, and Tottenham are 2-1. So if you get it right, whichever you do, you're going to do well out of this one. But so for me, I'm going Brighton 2, Tottenham 1.
So I've gone Brighton 0, Spurs 1.
Okay, so we differ. We differ. Other sides of the coin. And in the past, that would have been a game I would have wanted on telly. But actually, the way that it's going at the moment, I'm quite pleased that that's a 3 o'clock kickoff, because I don't actually fancy that as being a particularly, watch it now be 5-4 and we're kind of game of the ages. Another really interesting clash of styles is Burnley host Nottingham Forest. Now, obviously, Nottingham Forest, Ange Postecoglou's first game, lose 3-0 to Arsenal. Not a massive surprise, I think it's fair to say. But obviously, last night, losing to Swansea, having been 2-0 up with not long to go, shows again that Postecoglou, we go back to Amorim, hasn't changed his mentality or his process. It looks like Postecoglou hasn't either. Obviously, a massive defeat in terms of it's a cup that they now can't win early in the season. Are you worried about Nottingham Forest? They've not made a great start. They conceded 3 goals against West Ham, 3 goals against Arsenal, 3 goals against Swansea. Could this be the time that Burnley go, we've got to get 3 points here, because this is a relegation clash?
Yeah, I mean, if Forest were against probably somebody else, I'd probably have a bit more fear about it. But against Burnley, I thought Burnley were tremendous against Liverpool, defensive-wise. But that doesn't keep you in the Premier League, because then you've got to go out and beat a Nottingham Forest to get 3 points at home. And from the evidence that I've seen so far of Burnley, I don't think they have a lot going forward. I think they're quite weak. So I just think it will probably play into Forest's hands, where Burnley at home are going to have to come into this game looking to attack and get 3 points. Forest, I think their natural instincts of defensive will kick in, and then counter attacking with your Hudson-Odois and the other players they've got with pace. So I can just see Forest just picking them off, to be honest.
Like they didn't deserve to lose that game. And I know they didn't create much going forward against Liverpool, but actually the defensive performance, I don't think and so those 2 points would have given those Burnley fans something to cling on to, wouldn't it? If you got 2 points against Manchester United and Liverpool, all of a sudden you're thinking, hold on a minute, we're not in a bad place. But it just shows, doesn't it, that it's fine margins. And for me, like you say, where are they going to score? If you score 1, where are Burnley getting 2 or 3 week in, week out? Like, they do it every now and again because that's what happens in football, but they've just not got enough goals in them, have they?
And that's the point, isn't it? Is their whole game plan is going to be try and keep a clean sheet and nick one here and there, which against the Liverpool, I had people messaging me saying, oh, what a terrible game to watch. I was like, what do you expect from Burnley? They're not going to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool, are they? Like, it's going to be their game plan. So, and I thought they were, honestly, I had so much admiration for them, and I felt so sorry for them because it nearly worked a treat, and that's what you've got to do when you come against the big boys. But when Forest come to Turf Moor, you've got to try and turn them over. It's an opportunity to get 3 points. And I just can't see where they're cutting edge of of any players that they've got where I go, oh, he might be able to create you something. Like even the relegated teams last season, you looked at some of their teams. Tyler Diblin was somebody who you go, he might be able to create you something. Like I look at this Burnley team and I go, who is that person? And for me, they just haven't got it. Whether it's a forward, a winger, a midfielder, like. And even I thought their best player on the day got a red card, so he's going to be suspended.
And on the flip side of that, for me, is there a risk that Nottingham Forest, who've had a huge turnover in players, they did, they're one of the more active teams, certainly at the back end of the window. And again, almost like they were buying players for Postecoglou, knowing that he was coming in. Do you feel, because I'm starting to think that actually not only, it could take Postecoglou 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games to know what his best 11 is, to know who can do what. And so actually by that time, they could be in big trouble because they've not got off to a great start. Like I say, out of a couple already, which again, Nottingham Forest fans would have thought they had a chance of actually kind of going on to do some damaging. But now they're sat, 15th, 4 points. All of a sudden, it's looking risky without them knowing who their starting 11 is or what style of play they're going to be playing, because we still don't know whether he's going to change them to that all-out attack that he had at Tottenham, or if he's going to try and keep it more like Nuno had before he came over. So for me, there's so many questions about Nottingham Forest that this could be a problem for him.
Yeah, it could be a problem for them. Absolutely. I don't know what their fixture list looks like, but obviously having Burnley now is a great opportunity for them to stick 3 points on the board and almost put a bit of distance between the teams.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Like you say, I think for everybody, you've got to be looking at Burnley as a relatively safe game. They've got Sunderland after that, so again, maybe 2 games where you'd be looking for 6 points. A couple of clean sheets, and you're back in the mix, aren't you? You stick 6 points on where they are now, and all of a sudden the table reads very, very differently. You're probably now in sort of 7th, 8th, 9th, and you're shooting up the table. But if they didn't get the win on Saturday, the pressure would come on quite quickly, wouldn't it?
100%. And imagine that fixture list read Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. Like all of a sudden, Postecoglou is under pressure, trying to embed a new style of play, new players, all of those good things. Which, if you're facing those sorts of teams, is going to be very difficult, and the pressure's on you. But having Burnley and Sunderland your next 2 games, that's a real opportunity. But like you said, you lose those games, and all of a sudden you've lost that little buffer, and the pressure's on.
Yeah, this is a really important game for Nottingham. Of course, they're all important games for both teams. How do you see this one going? What have you got? I'm guessing you've gone for an away win.
I've gone for a Burnley 0, Forest 1 away win, and just on them going out the cup, I think that might be a bit of a blessing for him, to be honest. He's obviously got Europe, and he needs to focus on embedding those tactics. So I think it might be a bit of a blessing in disguise for him to go out and focus on elsewhere.
Yeah, the risk is that you've now got players that aren't going to play because they're not got that cut. He obviously changed all 10 players for it, so good to see a couple of new players and see what they can do. But and I just want everyone to remember that I've got no confidence in any of the banker of the week this week is going to be a difficult one for me. So genuinely, I've got no confidence. So I've actually gone for a draw here, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Just because I think Burnley might have enough fight to keep Nottingham Forest out, But yeah, I think 1-1 draw for me, but with no confidence. And I've actually changed the next game's result, having looked at the injury list. West Ham United, coming off the back of an absolutely diabolical performance against Tottenham at home, host another London team in Crystal Palace, 3:00 kickoff at the London Stadium. Let's start at the top, Fran. If they lose this game, is Graham Potter getting fired?
It's a big possibility, isn't it? So the dreadful performance last week, sending off as well of what's his name, the Czech lad in midfield, Souček. That's not going to help them at all because they look really weak in midfield. So I don't know what replacements they've got. I mean, he is massively under pressure. I've said it before. I thought it was a terrible choice from Potter to go to West Ham. That squad was not set up to play his style of football. It's coming. He's the next manager to be sacked, 100% for me. I can see them getting beat quite comfortably by Palace. When you're referring to injuries, I don't know who you were talking about. So if you're about to tell me Guehi and 4 others are out for Palace, I could change my tune, but I think Palace are a pretty solid bet here.
So I had Palace in, but Adam Wharton and Ismail Sarr both look like they're out. And so that has properly swung my opinion, bearing in mind they've lost Eze as well. And so for me, I've gone from a Palace win to a draw. But again, if Sarr or Wharton actually off, and this is I've just gone off the Premier League website. So again, I've got no intel as to whether that's true, but I'm just going off the Premier League website. If they're not playing, I think that brings the game a lot closer because they are two really important players in that system for Glasner and Crystal Palace.
No, I agree. I agree. And it's not like they're a club where they're going to have huge reserves, where the bench is going to be stacked full of players. So, I mean, especially Adam Wharton, he's absolutely key to what they do. Still think they'll probably be good enough to go and nick something there, though.
Yeah, West Ham are up against it. Again, you saw the fans mass walk out after the third goal went in on Saturday night against Spurs. They're unhappy. Again, they're almost at that point now where they're almost don't care anymore. Like it's almost like they're just kind of going, like we're losing games in football. We can't care anymore. The owners aren't really doing what the fans want. Like I say, it would have been no surprise, and I think we may even spoke about it on here that by Christmas, if Postecoglou was at Nottingham Forest and Nuno Espirito Santo was at West Ham, and again, actually, he feels like the right sort of man to go in there and do something with that squad. He's probably the closest kind of thing to David Moyes you can get, isn't he? In terms of, and again, I know that West Ham fans might not thank us for that, but actually, we're at the point now where there's a danger that they're in the mix for being talking about going down.
Well, I don't think there's a danger. They are in the mix for going down. If it carries on like this, and the longer they leave Potter in his job, they are in trouble, 100%. Because that squad is no better than, well, I'd back Sunderland over them. Like some of the promoted teams, it's no better than them. Like, the only thing they've got is somebody like a Jared Bowen. This could be the difference between a few of the squads. But in general, they're no better than the promoted teams.
Do you think there's a chance that in January someone tests West Ham's resolve on Bowen? Because
I don't see why you wouldn't.
he's starting to look, and again, obviously, I understand he's embedded in the West Ham way with obviously who he's married to and everything that goes along with that. But I'm just starting to see his kind of body language and facial expressions turn to someone that looks very, very frustrated with what's going on in that club. And if a Newcastle or whoever it is, someone higher up the food chain comes in, I think you might be able to get him out.
I agree entirely, and you've seen it before at other clubs where body language shows you immediately how somebody's feeling. And let's say I've seen it with other players before where they just look royally fed up, and he looks like one of those players, and it almost looks a burden to him, doesn't it? Like he's married into the Dyer family, who are West Ham supporters, die-hard supporters, and it's almost like you can see him going, "Could be doing without this." So yeah, I definitely think somebody could come in for him and get him out of there. It's probably going to cost him a little bit because he's an English international, but he'd be well worth it, wouldn't he? And if they lose him, they are struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Going forward, they've not got a lot. Callum Wilson is not someone you want sort of carrying the burden of your goal scoring exploits for the course of the season. And thinking about it, just then, it wouldn't surprise me if both of these teams have new managers by the start of the new calendar year. Because actually, like I said to you, I do think that if Manchester United replace Amorim, it will be with a Glasner. And I can see Espirito Santo being the West Ham manager before too long as well. So I think both teams could go through some transition this season, which would derail both of them. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw. You've gone for a.
Well, I'm going to stick with it because I still believe they'll do it, whether it's this scoreline or not, is West Ham 0, Palace 2.
Yeah. Again, for everybody that's listening, I would say see what the team sheet says before kickoff and maybe change accordingly. If they haven't got Sarr and Wharton, that for me is a big problem for Crystal Palace, even though they know the system so well.
There is, on all of these games that we said, though, you put a few teams together and your accumulator starts to become massive, don't you? You have 15-8 West Ham, 11-8 Palace, 5-2 the draw. The bookies don't know. So if you get a couple of these right, your accumulator will be flying.
Yeah, this week, like I say, I don't think I've ever done this and gone literally throw a card up in the air and see how it lands as much as I've done this week. Like it feels like, and maybe it's because it's so early in the season and there's new players and all that kind of stuff, but this just feels like a complete long shot to me, which again.
You mentioned bankers. I genuinely don't know. There's one team that I've come down on, which we'll obviously get to, but when I look at the rest of the games, none of them have given me any confidence.
Again, likewise, mate. Honestly, well, I said to you before we dialed on, you know, my 10 team my 10 team accumulator, obviously doing the results, basically is 50,000 to 1. You know, that tells you what my results prediction, and that should never be the case in 10 Premier League. You know, it should be quite clear cut, but it's definitely not. And the next game is not clear cut for me at all, although it is a relegation 6-pointer. Yes, we're in match day 5, but it is a relegation 6-pointer. Wolverhampton Wanderers play Leeds United. This is the epitome, the embodiment, the complete. If you Google must win game, there'll be a picture of Wolverhampton Wanderers next to it right now, because they have to win this game, don't they?
They've got to win this game. I like what Leeds have done since they've come up. You know, they've looked pretty solid. They've not looked as adventurous as previous Leeds teams have. So they don't look like they've got many goals in them. So I think they have adapted okay. But Wolves, oh my God, they look dreadful. And they've got to beat Leeds here at home. If they don't beat Leeds here, at the very worst, if they lose, I think they're down. I'm going that early.
I think it's a fair shout, because Leeds are definitely one of the teams that Wolverhampton Wanderers will be expecting to finish above. And if they lose, they'll be 7 points behind Leeds United after 5 games. Like, that's a big ask based on what Wolves have got. You know, you look at the Leeds numbers, you know, to the naked eye, they don't look great. One scored, 6 against, but 5 of those were in that game against Arsenal. So actually, defensively, they've looked pretty solid in the other 3 games, albeit falling on, you know, kind of 1 win, 1 draw, 2 defeats. But yeah, absolutely. Wolverhampton Wanderers must win this, and for me, they must win it comfortably as well, to get some confidence back in the fan base, the manager. You know, because actually, when we talk about managers that are under the pressure, here's another one, right? We could be talking about 3 or 4 managers sacked before the international break or during the international break if it carries on the way it's going.
Well, they're on about giving him a new contract.
Well, yeah, well, as long as it's got a relegation release clause in it, then crack on.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why they'd want to give him a new contract, because he does look a good manager. The tools that he's been given with this season is the reason why it's not going well. So I don't blame the manager. But it almost makes, like I said, as long as the relegation release clause, a break clause, whatever it is, but to give him, if there's not, to give him a new contract, to then sack him if he goes down is nonsensical. You're just increasing your costs. So you'd expect there to be some form of break clause if they go down, whatever that is. But they just don't look to have the tools to me. We spoke about the forward, what's his name, Strand Larson, that he's got no service. He's the type of forward that relies on service. You know, he's big, he's going to get his head on crosses. But if you're not getting the ball forward, he's going to be rendered useless.
Yeah, I haven't really got any positives for Wolves fans, Wolves in performance, but this has to be a weekend where they start that process. And of course, you know, Leeds, you know, really unlucky to lose against Fulham last week. Like you say, they're definitely trying a slightly more secure way of playing. They don't concede as many. It looks like Daniel Farke has learnt his lessons from the past, which is all we've asked managers to do. The thing here is that, can Leeds score enough goals to win on Saturday and stay up? That I don't know where Leeds are getting their goals from again. So this for me could be quite a low scoring game, and it might be the odd goal beneath 2.5 that win it.
I've sat on the fence. I've gone 1-1 because I wouldn't want to confidently go for either team. If you're going to push me, I'd probably press Leeds. But I've gone for 1-1. I think Wolves at home will possibly nick a point.
I have gone for 1-0 Leeds, but again, with no confidence whatsoever, because I have to pick something, and I didn't want to do another draw, but I have gone 1-0 Leeds. But for Wolverhampton Wanderers fans, I hope obviously they do pick something up, but I think that might be a stretch too far. We move to the 5:30 kickoff. Manchester United host Chelsea, fresh from coming back from Munich. This will be the first test of whether actually Chelsea's schedule has an impact on their performance, because obviously come back from the Club World Cup, which they obviously won. They're in Europe. Manchester United aren't. Obviously a tough defeat at Bayern Munich, although at times Chelsea did do well to come back into the game. But going early, this is going to be my risky banker of the week. I think Chelsea will win the game, but I think this could be a little bit tighter than normal based off of all that stuff I've just given you.
I also had Chelsea as my banker. They were the one team that stood out to me. Even though they done me over last week, I've also picked Chelsea. just because I can't see Manchester United hurting them. They are a good side, Chelsea. Cole Palmer looks to be back in form, which I think is massive for them. I think he just transforms them from being a good side to a very good side. For me, that when I looked down the game week, I thought every fixture was difficult, and then I just kept looking at Chelsea and going 11-8 against a poor Man United side with Palmer back in form. Chelsea are playing well, even though they got beat against Bayern. I thought they played quite well. A few defensive mistakes, but going forward, I thought they looked a threat. It came down on Chelsea. I just thought they're the one team that stood out to me.
Yeah, so first, I didn't think Chelsea would beat Bayern Munich.
No,
Everybody underestimates that front three of Bayern Munich in Michael Olise, Harry Kane, and Luis Diaz is up there. When you talk about best front threes in the world, that's right at the very top of that. In terms of you're talking about top two, maybe PSG you might put before that, but Harry Kane and Michael Olise are arguably the most in-form attacking players in the world currently. So I did not expect Chelsea to win last night. That's no reflection on the drop off from playing Bayern Munich to playing Man United is night and day. I think the Chelsea midfield is where this game will be won. I think that midfield three, Caicedo, Fernandes, will overrun however Man United dressed that midfield up. I think that the midfield battle will be won by Chelsea comfortably, and that will give Palmer Pedro, whoever Neto, whoever it's going to be, and of course there is the not too what's the word, not too dramatic return of Garnacho to Old Trafford, and it wouldn't surprise me if he chipped in with a goal at some point in the game to kind of really drag the nail into the Man United fans' coffin.
I think you've just summed up the midfield. Where I think this game is easily going to be won is that midfield battle. The two cities in both teams will obviously take care of themselves. And if you look at the Man United Man City game, Phil Foden had the space of 10 double-decker buses in that midfield to get on the ball, turn, hurt them. Cole Palmer will be exactly the same. Maresca will plump him just behind those two in midfield. He'll get on the ball and hurt them because he'll be dragging players out. João Pedro will be running into the space. I can see this being horrible for United. But I think at 11-8, it's great value as well. So for us to have the same banker, 23.75 could be both going in. So 50 quid off 20 quid.
So if we look at going back to, because we touched on Man United earlier, we don't need to go into too much sort of tactical detail on Man United. But if we look at their next three games, because that's what we've been told they've got, how would you feel as Ruben Amorim if you start with Chelsea at the feet? Next week they're away to Brentford in the early kickoff. Not a happy hunting ground for Manchester United historically, and then they host Sunderland at home. They're the three games that we're led to believe that he has to win. How would you be feeling about those three games if you're a Man United fan or manager?
So I certainly wouldn't like the Chelsea fixture. I think that's got a defeat written all over it. The other two, excuse me, the other two, I don't think that you could probably ask for better games for United. A promoted team and a team that's been decimated by transfers and the manager leaving. I mean, do I think they'll win them? No, but it could be a lot worse running. So, I mean, for Amorim's perspective, I think he's done all right out of the three games, but I can't see them performing and picking up the wins that he needs to keep his job.
If Manchester United are a serious football club, they should be looking at the teams that they want to be around as how you judge.
Do you not just think that's where they are now, though? Previously, I'd agreed with you, but they are around the Sunderlands and the Brentfords. Like, they're probably looking at that games and going, if we lose those games, we're in relegation trouble.
So let me give you a perfect example of what I mean, is that the first game back after the international window, yes, there's another one coming up, believe it or not, is Liverpool away. Right, it's Liverpool away. Right, so you could keep Ruben Amorim because he's beaten Sunderland at home, he's beaten Brentford away, and then you go and get absolutely tanked by Liverpool and you're back to where you are. My point is, if he's not the right manager, Sunderland and Brentford shouldn't be the games you're judging his future on.
I believe if they don't believe he's the right manager, he should go now.
Well, that's my point, I guess. I guess that's what I'm getting to, is that because you still got to play Liverpool after the international break, and if you get absolutely tonked in that game, which has been kind of a feeling of the last few, like, I don't know.
Even if you get rid of him and appoint a new manager for that game, you're giving him Liverpool away first up.
Oh, but is that a free hit for any manager? You know, if someone comes in, actually, that's not a bad first game because you're not expected to win. You
Yeah,
know,
but I mean, what would be even more ideal is to give him
well,
Brentford
absolutely.
and then go on win, and then all of a sudden your regime is up and started with a bit of confidence.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens around this international window. As we said, West Ham, Wolves. Does someone try and get Glasner out? Like I say, it's going to be very interesting from a managerial point of view. And you came out and sort of said who you think's next, but there's definitely a couple of teams. I think if West Ham lose at the weekend, I think Graham Potter could be out first. I really do, but we'll see what happens. We've both gone for Chelsea as our banker, so we know which way we're going. But what do you think the score will be?
I've given United a goal with no confidence, but I've gone 1-3.
I've gone 1-2. Yeah, I think Man United do look actually bizarrely better going forward than they do defensively. So I think they could score. I could see when Buemo causing a problem. Obviously, Cunha being out, so I don't know if he's still out the weekend, but obviously missed last week, so that's a problem. It feels like there's been like 1,000 London derbies already this season. Saturday night football's back. I must admit, I'm not a massive fan of Saturday night football over Monday night football, but I understand that with Europe and European football being back, they have to kind of cut it all in. But neither of these teams are in Europe, so they could have played Monday night, in my opinion. Fulham host Brentford at Craven Cottage. Uh, this could be actually quite a nice game of football. I can see this being quite entertaining, a little bit maybe like a basketball game in terms of both teams trying to play football. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was encouraged by Brentford, and if they can take that same level of performance that they're putting against Chelsea, the same energy, the same attacking intent, I think this could be a really good game of football. I can see Fulham just nicking it at home, so I've gone for a Fulham 1, Brentford 0 result. I think Fulham have been slightly unfortunate this season. I know they got a late winner last week, but I think they've been slightly unfortunate with some of their results where they've played well but just haven't had the luck or the results that they deserve with their performances. So I can see Fulham just nicking this being at home.
Yeah, that's what I've got. I've got 1-0 Fulham. Uh, I think I think actually, I said this year, Brentford's team on paper looked quite strong at the weekend. I actually was like, oh, okay, actually, this is starting to pull together a little bit. And I do worry that Fulham haven't got that goal scorer that you need. Uh, go back to like Raul Jimenez and you go back to obviously Mitrovic that they've had in the past. That, they've had goal scorers. I just don't know where their goals are coming from as well. But I do think they'll have enough to beat Brentford. Although I am feeling a little bit more confident as you are around Brentford and where they're going. I think Keith Andrews. The one thing I will say is he's held himself together in every interview he's done. He's come across really well for me. I really like the way he talks. I can see why he was the successor to Thomas Franks. He's clearly of the same gene pool.
Yeah, I've not seen a lot from him, but you don't get given a job if they don't think you've got a lot about you, and especially Brentford, they wouldn't just go, "You're in the building and you come." So they quite clearly rate him. I still have reservations. I still think you've got to be able to prove yourself at that level. But I like seeing people promoted from within given a chance because you don't see it. You normally see this managerial merry-go-round, don't you? Like we were talking about Ange to Forest, Nuno to West Ham. Like you don't normally see it, so it's quite refreshing.
Absolutely is. Be interested to see how that one goes. We move to Sunday, where we have my favourite team of the season so far in Bournemouth. I think what they've done with what they lost is absolutely phenomenal. Hosting Newcastle in a 2 o'clock kickoff down on the south coast. So a long journey for those Newcastle fans. Uh, Bournemouth, let's not forget, started off the season with a very, very impressive performance against Liverpool. It was only in the last sort of 5-10 minutes where they lost that game. They've gone on to win the next 3 games, playing some excellent football. Creating chances. Even some of their results have been flattering to the other team. They should have beaten Tottenham 5-6-0. The job that Iriola's done there is absolutely second to none. And we were speaking last season, what we sort of halfway through it, talk about is his job at risk because they kind of had a bit of a decline. He's certainly come back up that food chain again. And for me, this is a really, really difficult fixture and one that Newcastle won't be looking forward to, but Bournemouth will be thinking they can get something from.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I'm going to make a statement. I think the only team to perform well this season is Bournemouth. I think when I look at the rest of the teams, I think Everton have done all right this season, but they put in a horrible performance first game of the season. Like I go down the list of teams, and I can't see a team that's consistently performed well apart from Bournemouth. Even when they lost to Liverpool, I thought they were tremendous. I think they're the only team to perform to very good levels this season consistently.
And you'd have to say that Semenyo is the best player as well, right? Semenyo has to be up there when we're talking about who's been the best player as well.
He's been fantastic. And I think he's been fantastic for about 18 months, 2 years now. He's
Yeah.
been superb. Losing all of those players and just going again, it's what, Brighton have done. It's what Brentford's have done in the past. But Bournemouth are coming to a level where they're almost elevating themselves past those teams where they just keep churning out players and performances, and whether it's managers, like for a team of the size they are with the budget that they've got, they're just so well run, and they're my second favourite team in the league. Well,
Yeah.
I say they're my first favourite team in this league, but they're my second favourite team in general, just the way that they're managed. I just think they're fantastic, and the best compliment I can give them with this game is generally you look at that fixture and you go, Newcastle should win this game. You can't say that about this fixture. I think if anything, Bournemouth are probably favourites. I've gone 2-2 because I can't see. I can see both teams scoring goals. I think both of them have got the potential to score goals. I just couldn't plump for either side to win.
I had, again, no confidence in any of these. And again, if you get this one right, you're going to do okay. If you've got it, as a single and accumulate whatever you've done with it. I've just changed to a draw as well. I think this could be a really good game. I think this could be an absolute ding dong of a game. I actually like what Newcastle have done with Visser and Voltamada. I think they're two good purchases. I think obviously Alango adds some pace. I think defensively, although some of them are getting a little bit older, I think Newcastle are there or thereabouts. Obviously, they've not had the start that they wanted. They've only won one, and that was against Wolves. Obviously, and even that, to be fair, was not clear cut and easy. So Newcastle aren't quite where they need to be or want to be. But again, when we talk about kind of swings, if Newcastle win, they're on 8 points, 1 point behind Bournemouth. If Bournemouth win, they're on 12 points, 7 points clear of Newcastle after only 5 games. That's a crazy gap for so early in the season, and you wouldn't have thought it, right? Like everyone would have thought Newcastle would be ahead of them. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game to see if Bournemouth can maintain that level, because that's always been the accusation, is that they burn out. Now we're only game 5, but can Bournemouth keep that level for the whole season? Because if they can, there's a chance of them making top 6.
Yeah, and I mean Newcastle are playing tonight. They've got Barcelona, so you can look at it one of two ways. They get a result there, it kickstarts their season, confidence is up, the fans will be bouncing. Or Thursday night, they're going to be very tired from the game. I imagine they're going to put a lot into this game against Barcelona, probably chasing the ball for a long period of time. So you could say then Bournemouth have the edge being at home against a tired team, but I think Newcastle will probably get something tonight and therefore take that confidence into the game against Bournemouth.
For the record, Newcastle, Barcelona is one of the games. I'd have Barcelona as my banker because they're gonna win that game. They're in very good form.
I hope they do. They're my last leg of an Eka.
Well done. You've done well. Mine failed quite early on. So, we've both gone for a draw there, and I think that's probably right. But again, I could argue Bournemouth win. I could argue a Newcastle win. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game, and the one I'll be watching over Sunderland and Aston Villa that's on at the same time.
What score did you go? So I went 2-2.
Yeah, I'm going to match you on that one. I'm going to go 2-2 as well, mate. I think there'll be goals in that game. At the same time, same kickoff. Sunderland also on the telly host Aston Villa at the Stadium of Light. Now, I can't believe what I'm about to say, but Aston Villa are the bookies' favourites. But for me, that's absolute nonsense. And I think Sunderland are the favourites to win this game for me.
I think the way that the season's gone so far, you'd have to agree, especially at home.
Sunderland are nearly 3-1, and Aston Villa are evens. Again, I know we shouldn't kind of use the bookies' odds as a metric, but for me, that's crazy odds on Sunderland to win. And again, going back to your point around Sky betting the freeze, I make Sunderland favourite. I've got them as a home win. I think Sunderland can win this game.
I have gone for a 1-1 draw because I think Villa have to pick up at some point. It can get worse, I know it can, but I just think they will pick up and they'll probably have a bit more quality against the Sunderland side that, yes, have started very well, have signed some good players, but are still gelling. I can just see, so I've gone for 1-1. I could just see them nicking something, but if you were to say go for a side, I'd be going for Sunderland at the odds at home. I think it's a great price. Like you said, there's a couple here for a Sky bet freeze.
I mean, like you said, at home piece is really worthwhile noting, because obviously they beat West Ham at home in the first game of the season to nil, so 3-0. Obviously, they then went and followed that up with a 2-0 defeat away at Burnley, which still sticks out as probably the shock of the season so far. But then they beat Brentford at home 2-1. They draw away at Palace, phenomenal result, drawing away at Palace, 0-0, no goals conceded. So question is, where are Aston Villa's goals coming from? Ollie Watkins looks like a shell of the man. They don't look like they've got. I mean, Harvey Elliott might come in and pull some strings. He is someone that can chip in with the goal. But at home, for me, I see this being 1-0 Sunderland. I think Sunderland will have enough. The fans are, absolutely loving it, absolutely buzzing, quite rightly so. And so I think that might just have enough to carry it over the line. And for me, Sunderland 1, Aston Villa 0.
Would you go as far to say if Sunderland beat Villa, not saying they've guaranteed their survival, but they are almost there to convincing their fans that they're good enough, convincing the league that they're going to be good enough, and relegation shouldn't be a thing that they should be thinking of?
You've obviously not bumped into any Sunderland fans online over the summer, so their fans definitely think they're good enough.
Their fans think they should finish in the top 4, but let's say other Premier League fans then.
Yeah. Look, I think if you'd have said to me at the start, so there's a couple of things to throw here. If you'd have said to me after game week 4, none of the promoted teams would be in the bottom 3, I wouldn't have believed you. If you'd have said that after game week 5, Sunderland, let's assuming they win, are on 10 points, having played the teams they've played, I wouldn't have believed you. And if they win, by the way, they could be in the top 4 depending on how the results go. If they win 2 points a game from your first 5 games, 2 points a game is a very good return at any point of the league. That would be, long story short, yes, I think they'll be staying up if they win at the weekend. I really do. 10 points that early in the get go would be very, very impressive, and I can't see 17 teams overtaking them, 16 teams overtaking them from that stage of the season already.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I sort of bring it up, is 10 points that early on in the season must give them confidence to kick on and get some more, whereas other teams would be looking up going, how on earth do we catch them?
Yeah, and look, the other thing I'd say about Sunderland is that, historically when teams have come up, you kind of go, they're the bank, and they're going to lose. But actually, next week against Nottingham Forest, I would expect Forest to win, but it's not a home banker. They then go, as we said, they then go to Manchester United. Again, I can see them causing Manchester United trouble. They've then got Wolves at home. Again, that would be a home win. Chelsea away is going to be tough. But all of a sudden, Sunderland, when you're talking about Sunderland, they're not your absolute guarantee to lose that they would have been if they had someone had.
No, I agree entirely. I think if you go back through our predictions, I think it's very rare that we've backed for them to lose. So
No,
I think it's a great position for them to be in.
yeah, absolutely. Sunderland fans should be very happy with what they've done for a whole bunch of reasons. Really impressed, and it's another one of them games. No real It wouldn't surprise me, all 3 results, but I've gone for Sunderland to win. So what was yours again? I can't remember.
I've gone for 1-1, and you're 1-0, are you?
Yeah, 1-0 to Sunderland. You're 1-0. Okay. Last game of the game week. Absolute massive game. 4:30 kickoff at the Emirates. Arsenal hosting Manchester City. Yeah, this is a big one, isn't it? This is a real opportunity for one of those 2 teams to dent the other team's kind of title ambition. And of course, Liverpool will be sitting there thinking, if we can beat Everton and be on 15 points after 5 games, they probably want this to be a draw, because actually already to have that size of a gap after game week 5 would be crazy. Where do you see both these teams at? So in terms of Arsenal, what have you thought of Arsenal so far this season?
So from an entertainment perspective, I've not been impressed. I watched the Champions League game where they played, they're called Bilbao Athletic Club. And again, from an entertainment perspective, it was dreadful. Bilbao had more of the ball, but Arsenal just look a threat. They get defensively, they're rock solid. They have a few attacks, but look threatening. The person who stood out for me has been Madueke. I think he's been superb since he's gone to Arsenal. He's so direct. He runs at defenders, commits fouls, gets into the box very easily, creates chances. So I've been impressed with them, if I'm being honest, not from an entertainment perspective. I think when I look at all of the teams in the Premier League, even though they're behind Liverpool, I still think I'm changing now. I think Arsenal are favourites to win the league because of that defensive setup. I think Liverpool can be beaten.
Do you think Arsenal can score enough goals?
That's definitely the problem. But I mean, when I looked at the bench that Arsenal had, they still had good players on the bench. Saka's yet to come back, hasn't he? So Martinelli came on and scored in the Champions League. I think they've got the squad to score goals from different areas. I just don't think they're going to be prolific. But I think what they're going to do, like we said on previous episodes, is keep clean sheets and score the odd goal here and there, and you'll win a lot of games.
They could be 9 points behind Liverpool after 5 games. If Manchester City win, they'd be level on points with Arsenal. Could be 6 points behind Liverpool. If either team lose, they're going to be starting to cut away. Obviously, Manchester City are currently in eighth. Now we know they're slow starters, but Manchester City are going to need to pull this around pretty quickly. And 9 points would be probably too much already because, like you say, either Arsenal or Liverpool, not both of them are going to drop off that much, are they? So this is absolutely box office, isn't it, for such an early game in the season?
It is, and I'll make the call now. I don't think Man City are in a title race. I think they're miles off it. You take Haaland out of that team, where do they score goals? I know it's ifs and buts, but their wingers don't look a threat. They're consistently recycling the ball from the wing to midfield, which just allows teams to get in behind. I think the fear factor of Man City has gone. I don't think they're the same team that used to go to the Etihad or even to allow them to come to your ground. And you thought, oh, we're going to get passed off the park here. Teams allow that now. They sit back and then just stick a couple of players up front or on the wing with pace, knowing they can hit City on the break. And that's what teams have done against them. And they've had success regularly. I mean, the best example I can give you is look at the Brighton game a couple of weeks ago. Brighton just soaked up all the pressure, hit them on the break with pace, and hurt them and got the victory. I don't think City are in a title race. I think it is between Liverpool and Arsenal.
Interesting. Before the season, I was actually all in on Manchester City. I think if they win at the weekend, I think they are personally. I think obviously there's an evolution both in terms of the coaching staff and the players. Uh, Obviously, they've had a little bit of bad luck with Marmoush being injured, Cherky being injured, but obviously Phil Foden looks like he's coming back to a little bit of form. Again, I don't want to get too carried away because he scored a goal, but I thought he played well in the Manchester derby. Doku looks like a player. They've got Oscar Bob, who is one of the best players I've seen live at a level. So again, for me, I think Manchester City have options, and Pep has always found a way. But if they lose at the weekend, I can't disagree with you. If other results get away, that they could easily be Manchester City could easily be 11th in the league, 12th in the league after 5 games.
I just look at that team and, let's go back to the Amorim conversation. I think you've got to have an element of flexibility to your tactical style of play. And I think Guardiola has gone from having the elite players, your De Bruyne's, where you can almost do that style of play and then go, right, you stick that cross on Haaland's head. They haven't got that now. So I think he's got to almost then get it out to the wingers and allow them to run at the defenders, allow them to create havoc, which he's so intent on recycling the ball, which it just nullifies their threat for me. And I think he needs to evolve again, Pep, which is, it's little of me saying it's the best manager that's ever lived. I just think he needs to evolve a little bit with some of those players and allow them the freedom, because for me, the fear factor's gone and you can just sit in against City now and not concede, because that creativity of De Bruyne and, similar with Trent just isn't there anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting tactical battle, isn't it? I hope that Arsenal sense the need to score goals and come out and play football. Like you say, with a lot of these teams at the moment, actually, I'm not enjoying watching them play. Particularly both North London teams are playing very turgid football, which is dragging down the entertainment value. So I either hope that Manchester City score early to see what Arsenal do with that to make it, and I'm talking purely as a neutral, and making it an entertaining game. Otherwise, if it goes 1-0 to Arsenal from a long throw or a corner, although interestingly, you would imagine Donnarumma's coming to kind of fix those problems at 6'12", whatever he is. He's a massive man mountain, isn't he? So, you'd be expecting him to come and claim the ball. Hopefully, open the game up. But for me, I think this could be a very interesting tactical game, if not entertaining from a free-flowing point of view.
Yeah, it could be horrendous. It's definitely got the potential to be a really bad game, hasn't it? I think the difference between Arsenal and City, I think they play quite, not as City from a defensive perspective, but from a boring perspective, keeping the ball and being rock solid at the back for Arsenal. The difference for me is Madueke. I think he's the one who can cause impact on the wing, and he's allowed to by Arteta. Whereas Doku, very similar style of player, doesn't really get the opportunity to run at defenders without being criticised for losing the ball. So I think Arsenal probably have the edge here, being at home and having that little bit more creative freedom.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Savinho, because obviously, fought quite hard to keep him in the summer, and obviously that's a very specific type of player that you're keeping, and therefore, actually, it'd be interesting to see whether he gets some game time and opens up that, with Doku on one side, Savinho on the other side, and whether they can actually start to go back to that slightly more exciting football that we know and love Man City for. Having said that, this is a no lose game, so it would not surprise me if both teams bank up a little bit and try and win it with a set piece, or maybe late in the game with something, and I could see it being quite a turgid affair, albeit full of tension and drama, and I could see someone getting sent off and all that kind of good stuff. But I don't think this is going to be the free-flowing football of the past.
I agree with you, and I think you've nailed what I was going to say. I could see this being a horrible game and probably Arsenal nicking it on a set piece.
Well, so is that what you've gone for? Have you gone Arsenal 1-0, have you?
I've gone Arsenal 1-0.
I'm going 1-1. I'm going for a draw, which Liverpool fans will be absolutely delighted about. I see it being that someone nicks a late equaliser rather than a late winner, but I think this could be quite a tough watch for the neutral.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Q76, as we keep joking about. So we both know what our banker of the week is. We've both gone for Chelsea. I've got 29-20. You might, I think, have a slightly different number, but ultimately a good return if it comes in. We now have to try and pick our way through that, and I don't know how we do with a £5 challenge. I've made mine quite soft just to try and get one over the line. But what have you gone for on your £5 challenge?
Well, I've gone for a treble, but the treble pays £88.58, and I've gone for Spurs, Palace, and Chelsea.
Okay, so we definitely can't both win then, because I've gone for Brighton.
Draw. That's going to be a draw.
I've gone for Chelsea, and I've gone for Fulham. So mine pays £55 off of a fiver, so which I'm still not a bad return. But yeah, Brighton, Chelsea, and Fulham all to win.
You could go with just a double, can't you, with a few of these and still get 20-30 quid in. So yeah.
Listen, if you like, someone is going to do very well out of this weekend. There's going to be a group of people that do really, really well where you've put 2 or 3 results together, and if it comes in, you're going to be very happy. I would be, again, up to you, nicking your phrase. And I wish I'd done it on the weekend, because I put Marseille in my Champions League accumulator. I just had a feeling at 6-1, and I didn't do Sky Bet, so I couldn't freeze it. So that's what's cost me. But I think to go Sky Bet with that freeze, if you're not sure on one, if the game goes, get it frozen nice and early and see if it can come in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've not utilised Sky Bet because I've been playing cricket, so it's pointless unless you've got the opportunity to freeze. But after this week, I'll be all over that, because I just think it's such great value. If you can pick the right one and then just get your 4 bankers in as well, it gives you a real opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating game. I've got no idea what's going to come from this. So again, we might have complete egg on our face. But of course, if we do well over the predictions round, we'll be telling everybody that we knew it all along, and we're very confident. As always, really enjoyed that, buddy. Thank you very much. Where can people find us? Where can people shout at us, talk to us, abuse us?
So social media wise, we are on Twitter, we're on Facebook and TikTok. And if you want to listen to the episodes, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube.
Amazing. Please do that, guys. Reach out, and if you've got any questions, any topics, anything you want to talk about, obviously feel free to do so. And of course, if you want to come on and give us your predictions, again, feel free to do so as well. Let us know, reach out, and we will get you on so you can tell us what you think.
We'll get Carps on soon.
Yeah, I need to message him actually about something else. So yeah, feel free. That would help me. Save me a message.
And just lastly, there's a massive game on the weekend, 12:30 Saturday. You watching it?
Because who's playing?
It's the M69 derby.
The M69 derby.
Yeah.
Leicester Coventry.
Yeah, massive game.
Away win. Anchor.
I agree. I agree. I think they'll get beat.
Frank Lampard's light blue army. Is that the chant?
I think the Leicester fans will be chanting something different at him.
Yeah, most fans do. Bless him, but he's done a great job there. To be fair to him, I think that's an interesting. Okay, yeah, no, well, yeah. If it wasn't the Merseyside derby, I would have a bit of that actually, because that is quite an interesting game. Good luck to all teams for this weekend. Fran, as always, mate. Firstly, I hope you feel better real soon, mate. I hope you
Thank
get
you.
back to yourself 100%. But thank you for your time. Really enjoyed that. I look forward to speaking to you next week, mate.